Hello, good evening. Hopefully the stream has started and the video is live. We are going to be doing some interesting stuff hopefully this evening. That's if we actually make any progress on it.
Can you bring up the screen to see if we're in focus?
Wow.
We should have checked that before the live
sure
stream went. We're going to be doing CodeWars tonight, but we're going to battle it out.
We are. So CodeWars is an online training tool, I suppose you could call it. A way of just trying out different exercises and improving your coding skills.
And we have picked JavaScript and TypeScript, because one of the most popular, both of them are quite popular.
It tends to be what we've talked about on previous streams, so it felt like a good place to start from. We may try some other languages in the future, or we may try some slightly different exercises. So we're interested in feedback, as this is the first time we've done this. We're planning to do probably 5 with the 2 of us involved, and then we'll look to mix it up a bit for future
So you can pair with us remotely now, but in the future we might, make it a bit more exciting. Maybe you can pair on the stream, or maybe we'll get people in to join us.
So what are we calling this thing?
CodeKombat.
CodeKombat.
Oh, I answered that too quick. I should have paused. I just got excited because I knew the answer.
Absolutely.
That wasn't part of the test, though, was it?
That was not a test.
Oh, damn it.
We've been talking about it for 2 weeks now. I think we've been planning out ideas, and yet we've still managed to start a little bit late on our first
So
session.
really sorry. We were here early though, an hour before,
We were.
and we had a few technical issues, a few too many.
And a fire alarm.
Oh yeah, and a fire alarm. That did not help. But everything was okay. Everything was safe. So we can share Andrew's screen and my screen, and we've just noticed on CodeWars that we've just registered for that you get different questions. So it's not like Andrew and me can race on the same
it comes
question.
up with different questions. So I think we've changed the format slightly. It was going to be 5 minutes a question. Whoever gets the furthest wins the point. But I think we're going to do, 20 minutes? Or we're going to go for leveling
I
up?
think level up. So
Okay.
you start off at level 8, I think, and your level goes down as you get better. So it's the first person to get to level 7. I don't know how many questions there are, but these questions should be pretty straightforward, pretty quick.
And we're going to see how many levels we can reduce by in a period of time. We'll see how long the stream goes for. But each person who gets down to the next level first, does that mean one of us has to catch up as well whilst...
I don't know, but I'm asking you to help me beat him. So I want to be sharing my screen, and I've got Stream Deck here. I'll be switching to my screen and just shout out answers. I want to type it in the chat because I probably won't hear you. You're quite far away.
Yeah, we will swap between screens, and we'll talk a bit about our question and what we're thinking about how we're going to answer it, I guess. And yeah, get involved, ask us questions. Hopefully, we can get our chat stream up. I think Eddie's monitoring it his own way right now.
I am. But it'd be good to have it on there as well. Right, so while Andrew's setting up his iPad just to get the chat, let me share my screen and get started. I need a head start. Actually, you can give me a hand. So if I go to Eddie, so hopefully you see my screen. And
I bet you got the easy question, haven't you?
I've got the hard one. So now train, I'm guessing just the first one, right? So train, let's have a look. That was your phone, not mine. Okay. So what do we have to do? Tips. Get the question right. Welcome to Kata Training. A few tips to get you started. Attempt. This button will submit your code against a full set of tests to complete the kata. Right, okay, got you. Run sample test. Okay, sounds good. If you care about using TDD, then sample tests will be covered. All right, useful for you. Perfect. How's the audio and video, by the way, everyone? We're trying a new setup with these kind of lights, trying to look a bit kind of inspection-wise. Is my screen not working?
The 2 video feeds are sitting over the top. Do you want me to just get rid of them for now?
I think that's okay, because I'm not using that part.
When that's where you're going to be writing your answer.
Yeah, that's pretty important, I suppose.
Should I just turn them off for now? We'll go back to the main screen when we need to.
It's good to have us in it, though. Did you just lose my screen? I didn't touch anything. It was him. You need to get a new Mac. Can you maybe remove your screen off it, and so there's only one thing, and we'll just switch between our screens. Cool. So anyone watching, say hey in the chat. Let us know how the audio is. Let me know who's better looking, me or Andrew. Obviously me. And who do you think is going to win, me or Andrew? Andrew. Not me. So let us know.
I'm sure it's going to be me.
Let's do it. So I want to get started. So hopefully you can see my screen. You are on my screen. Andrew's just playing with the overlays. Have you busted it?
If I save it, it wants to restart the stream.
No.
So we'll have to leave it.
Okay. Let me get started. I'm trying to fix that. So are they the same? Given 2 arrays, I'm getting started.
Yeah.
You
Okay,
carry on
go
playing
then.
with OBS.
I'll give you a head start. No, we're starting, right? Okay, we're starting. You
Okay.
go through your question.
Given two arrays, A and B, write a function that checks whether the two arrays have the same elements with the same multiplicities. That's a really big word. I can't check the chat, by the way. How's your iPad doing? Same means that elements in B are the same as elements in A squared. Yeah, that's really hard. I hope you're all paying attention. You're going to help me with this. Examples. So you've got the valid array. A has those examples, B has those. I'm not going to read them out. Returns true because B, 1 to 1, is the square of 11. Right, 11's in A, and it exists in B. And then 14,641 is the square of 1 to 1. Right, okay. So B is the square of A, and they all exist. Okay, I think that makes sense. Invalid. If we change the first number to something else, does not return true anymore. Okay.
On the plus side, when we're doing this, we can make multiple attempts. So just like in
Yes.
real life, we've got the tests ready. There's tests down the bottom that have to pass. We get to run through it, try out a few, and see what happens. So you've gone through your question. I'll show mine quickly, I suppose.
I'm going to get
So
started.
I've got a slightly different question. My first question is, your task is to construct a building which will be a pile of n cubes, or a number of cubes. The cube at the bottom is going to have a volume of n to the power of 3, and the cube above will have a volume of n minus 1 to the power of 3. So, and so on until the top, which will have a volume of 1 to the power of 3, which is 1. You're given a total volume n, m, of the building. So we have a total that's going to be given to us.
Yours sounds quite hard.
Given the, I told you, I've
This is
got a
level
hard-
1.
Being given m, can you find the number of n cubes that we'll have to build? So I've got to know how many rows we're going to have to build. Find the parameter, find mb. So find mb will be an integer n, and you have to return integer n as such, n to the power of 3 plus n to the power of minus 1 to the power of 3, blah, 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 all the way up to the top. M, if such exists, there is no such as n. Okay, so some examples. So I was going to pass into my function a number. So in this case, the number is, what's that? 1,071,225, and I have to output 41. Okay, and then there's a really big number that's going to pass in, and that's going to result in minus 1 if there is no such n. Okay. So that answer basically is saying there's nothing matches, it doesn't work. Okay. Cool. So I've got the nice simple question, as you can see. I think Eddie's going to have this answer in no time at all, and he will be level 20 by the time I've still answering this first one.
I think I might find a bit of a boundary condition that might fail, but let's try.
Cool. Okay. All right. I'll pass it back to you while you talk.
Okay, let me talk about what I've done. So what I've started doing is I thought, right, so just to really recap anyone who's joined, on CodeWars, the first challenge, it's going to get harder from here. So this is like the
Chat is
basic one. Awesome. So what we're going to do is we're going to square A1 that comes into the function. And then we want to check that, not square, sorry. What's the word? Times it by itself. No, it's square. It's not a good start. So A1, we're going to square it. And then, so A1 times A1. And we're going to see if that exists in A2. So what I was thinking was, if we do a map, so we've got A1, we know it's an array of numbers. So we do A1, we map round, and we times it by itself. So that's the same as squaring it. But then we want to check if that square exists in A2. So let me see. We could do A2.includes. Any questions, jump in the chat and do ask away. Does A2 include the square of the A1 item? I think there might be a catch in the tests. I don't know if there are any extras in A2 that causes it to fail, but let's just run it and have a look. So I'm not going to run the full suite as a submission. I'm just going to run the sample test to see if we're on the right track. I hope this goes green because it's going to be freaking embarrassing. And we've got an error. I think I got a typo. Does anyone see what's wrong? Hopefully you can see my screen. You can. Okay, awesome. What is wrong? Let's have a look. Have I made a typo? Too many brackets? It's really weird not being able to do it in an actual editor. Open, close, open, close. Looks okay. I'll return Boolean. Yeah, that should return true. Includes return, or map will return an array. So that's very wrong. So let me think. We don't want to return an array. That's wrong. Although you shouldn't get. It's not assignable to type Boolean. Okay, so we'll get an array of Booleans. So we can do this another way. So what we can then do to make sure that we get an array of Booleans, so we can make sure that in the array we have nothing that's false. So then we can say includes false, and then we can say not, so it doesn't include false. I think that should work. Run sample tests. Come on, it's gonna be embarrassing if it doesn't work. Are you finished already?
No.
I still got an error. Unable to compile TypeScript. Did I miss a bracket? It's not, right?
I'm not helping you.
Are you supposed to help me? That was a team effort.
For a moment, you had me looking at what you're doing. The pairing exercises in the future.
Okay.
I've still got to try and figure out how to reverse. This is where my maths skills have dropped over the years.
It's been a long day as well. I got up at 4 a.m, so I'm quite tired. So please jump in the chat and do help. If you see any mistakes that I'm making, don't be shy. Even if you're unsure if it's the correct answer, just jump in the chat, give me a hand. Our goal is to beat Andrew. He'll do a forfeit as well if we win.
That's true. There are forfeits on for the loser.
So I could spread this out a little bit on multiple lines, so it's a bit clearer, because at the moment there's a lot happening on one line. So what I'll do, let's spread it out. Let's be a bit smarter. So const. So we're going to get the first thing we'll do is we'll loop over all the items. So we'll say squares, and it will be an array of numbers. So this will be that. And then what we'll do is remove this out. So we remove the includes, remove that. And it will just be item times item. And that should give us all the squares as an array. Oh, I'm missing a bracket at the end. Like I said, I'm going to make lots of mistakes. We're going to show you what it's like being a mortal coder. No ninjas, rock stars, wizards here, right? We're going to make mistakes. Even after 15 years, we're still going to make mistakes on, some fairly simple challenges. And this is what we'll pair in the future, but this time I'm pairing with you, so yeah, help me out. Give him the wrong answers. So we've got a list, an array of squares, and then we want to check that the squares appears in the second array. So we can say exists, and that will be an array of Boolean, which will be in squares, which is a kind of stupid thing, I know, I'm sorry. Not in squares, sorry, A2. In A2, does squares exist? But squares is an array as well. That's why doing it in the map actually helps. Okay, I'm going back to my original thinking. This is a typical day, right? Just going back and forth, back and forth. So if we say, does it exist, includes in there. So we'll change that to exists, and then that will be an array of Booleans. You're on Google.
We're allowed to use Google to check things.
You are. It shows that we're mortals. So we've got an array of Booleans, and I guess what we want to do is just make sure there's no false in the Boolean. So as it goes round, and it creates a list of trues and falses, we want to make sure that if there's any falses, then we know it's a failure, that the square of any item in the first array didn't exist in the second one. So let's have a look. Hopefully you're keeping up. I'm sure you probably solved this already, and I haven't. So give me the answer if you have. Let's have a look.
It's going to be good when we don't get the answer. Do we have a point when we can just skip the answer and say we're done?
Skip the answer?
Well, there's a skip option at the bottom.
Yeah, that's cheating.
This is too much maths for me at this time of day.
So we've got it exists, and then we want to check, is there a false? So now I want to say return in exists. Does it include? Is it include or includes? I'm pretty sure it's includes. Does it include a false? Because if it includes a false, then it should fail. So if it includes a false, is it not? We don't want it to include a false. Is it not? This is going to fail again. I'm pretty sure it is. But I don't want it to have a compile error because I can't see the problem. Compile error. TS diagnostics. Unable to compile TypeScript. Object possibly null. How is object possibly null? Could be an empty array. I don't know about object possibly null. This is really embarrassing. I think we should take this offline. Let's switch to Andrew's screen. Andrew, what are you up to?
I'm trying to figure out this question still because the numbers don't add up. So I was looking in reverse. What's my screen?
It's your screen. All yours. Okay. Take it away.
So I was starting from the point of view of initially I just wanted to cube root it because everything gets cubed, but that's not going to work because we're going through in a series. We're going n and n minus 1, so forth, and cubing them. So I'm looking now just in reverse to understand what the question is better because it didn't make enough sense, even though it's saying you're given the total volume of the building. So obviously I understand that we're building effectively a pyramid. But what I was looking at was one of the answers here, if we work back from the tests, is that n is going to, or the result n is going to equal 2022. So to get the long answer of however many billions that is, and for n to equal 2022, what's the best way of doing that? So there's another example, obviously the 45 down here. So 45 is a smaller number to work with. So I was just literally taking the little calculator on my computer and saying, right, so if I've got 45 and I was to cube that by 3, then that's 91,000. So that's not enough. So then if I was to going on, then adding that to the next part, then that would be 45 minus 1 cubed. So we're still not there. So if I was to then add the next one, so eventually we have 1 to the power of 3 on the end. So we've got to have that in there. So that's still not right. We're still too short, so we're going to keep on going. So the question for me is, do we have to go through all of the numbers? So would it be 45 minus 2 to the power of 3? And do I need to do all of that all the way 45 times for it to equal this, which is looking at the moment like that's possibly the case. So I could test that and actually write a little bit of logic, I suppose, and just see does 45 work by literally for each one, we're taking 1 away all the way until we effectively hit 1, which would give us that to the power. Then I'll have to inverse and flip it over. So I could start with a little test. I don't know if this is going to give me the answer. It should do. I'm just going to put literally in for, let's say, I equals 0. So it would be I equals 2022. Then I minus 1, and then while I is greater than 0. So working backwards from the answer, so I can comment things in here. We then want to add something up, so I assume I can still use a let. I'll just call it x. So x plus equals, and then putting that formula in. Oh, we need to go how many times we've done the loop as well, though.
Is this the easiest level, right? We didn't pick mastery, did we?
I don't know what level you picked for us, but hopefully, I guess no one's going to keep up with it. Well, maybe someone keeps up with it. What's the answer? So I could literally put a counter in here, I suppose. So y plus plus, do a little counter to do this temporarily, just because I want to see, do you have to do all the loops? So I minus, and then whatever we're on, so y.
Oh, the volume's coming through this. I wonder where the sound was coming from.
I should be able to do power in here as well. Power of 3 should be supported.
Oh, shit. Went back a page. Did not mean to do that. No!
Just lost everything.
I changed screens and I freaking went back a page. Oh, the volume is a bit low. Oh, thanks for your feedback. Hi to Lebanon. Andrew, talking to your mic.
Am I too low?
I'll crank him up a bit. Here we go. So crank the volume up. Hopefully he's not peaking. Is that better?
Eddie's microphone is working better. Is that because you just turned towards it?
I
bring the mic in front of me
towards it. Because I'm
put my hands in front of my...
Of course mine is better. I'm the better coder, the better microphone person.
we'll find out when when one of us actually gets an answer through.
But I'm
on
kind of
this.
stuck on some really basic stuff, and I've just lost my work.
Okay.
Oh my god! It's actually given me a new task. So all the effort I put in, I've just lost. Can I go
Well, there you
forward?
go. Maybe I get to skip on as well. I bet you've got a nice easy one now.
No, let me go to
It's just
forward.
about how many
No.
people are there on a bus.
Yes, that sounds easier.
That sounds much easier.
I went forward. I've got it back. Thank you, CodeWars. You remembered my position. Okay, I'm good.
Okay, I'm interested now in what answer's going to come up here.
So is Andrew's mic better? Now, is the whole thing better now, the audio? I cranked it up. Hopefully it's good and not clipping too much.
Oh, it doesn't like that. Timed out.
You got a timeout. I got some TypeScript error. Just like, no. Typical development, right? Write in the chat if this is how your development goes. As in, you have issues just like us. Let me turn this so I can see who's writing in the chat better. Okay. It's not null. I don't usually scream in the office when I'm working. At home, different story.
So I don't have time to execute. Looks okay for let I.
Oh, I've just seen the functions. They could get a null in the input. That's the stupidest design ever. I'm going to switch to my screen for a second. Is that okay?
Go on then.
I want to give a shout out to CodeWars. This is bad coding. Like, bad coding. As an input, and the Java people listening will understand, it says... Oh, I should have read it properly. I just went straight into doing it. But you can see A1 is a number, an array of numbers, or null. That's just like bad type, right? There's no null. You should pass in an empty array, right? Don't mix types. Okay, null is a type. It's still a type.
So you do some type checking.
Yeah, but that's the stupidest design ever. Okay, I'll fix this now. I think we're good. So I could have done it all in one line, but we've got it split out. It's okay. So if either of them are null, we should then just... What should we do?
I know what I've done wrong here.
If they're null,
condition, then
we should just return, I think, right? It will fail. There's nothing to square and there's nothing to check against, then we should fail. So if A1 is null, let me think, is equal to null, I think that works. Or A2 is equal to null, then let's just return false. I think that should work. And then, if it isn't, we carry an empty array exists. And we can probably do all that in one line, actually. Let's just do it like this. And then hopefully this will work, otherwise it's been really embarrassing. No type error this time, please. Oh, the sample tests have passed, but I have heard, that by doing the full attempt, there are more boundary conditions, so it still could fail.
Okay.
But I want to submit it because I want to beat you. I know I started a minute before you, or two. So ready? Attempt. Dun dun dun. Drum roll. Oh shit, it failed. I told you it might fail. Okay, some weird boundary condition where I think it's failed. Let's have a look. What is the test that caused it to fail? Basically, expect true to be false. Random. It does random test. That's really nice. With a whole load of numbers. That's great. All good. All good. All green. There's obviously one red somewhere. Basic tests went red and the random test pass. Okay. But what was it testing? I don't get it. Oh, sample test here is at the bottom. This is the simple one though. This is to run the sample and we passed for that. Okay. Yeah, I don't know what to expect now. Doesn't tell me what the failure is. Okay, so I'm guessing if there's an extra number, I'm not 100% sure if there's an extra number in the one of the arrays, then that fails. Should I check they're the same length at least? There's always a check. What happens if it's a duplicate? Then it will if it passes the first time or fails the first time, it will still fail and pass again. I could check if they're the same length. I don't know if that's what we want to do. If a1.length is not equal to a2, a2.length. I mean, what do you think? What other checks should we have in place? So if I run the sample test again, I'm guessing it's going to pass. But if I run the full test, I'm guessing it might fail because I don't exactly know what condition it's checking that I'm not checking myself in the code. So yeah, again, it failed again. So all the random tests pass, but it's obviously in their test to make this pass, it's obviously expecting some condition to be satisfied, and I'm not sure what it is. Because you could have it that in the first array and the second array they are the same length, but they're the same length, but there's duplicate in one of them, so in the second one it's got an extra number. I can update the sample test and let's try it. So if I put comma 11 down here, and then 11 squared is 121, so therefore it's in twice. I can do what they did to make it better. They did 11 times 11. Right, so I run the sample test, it's going to pass. But now if I change the 11 times and make it, say, times 12, my code will still make that pass because both arrays are the same length, but there's a duplicate in the first array. So there's an extra one in the second array that isn't there. So it's still passing. So I'm thinking that should have failed. So that's kind of passed incorrectly. So how complex should I make this? I could make it so that we check each value has a true against it. So I don't think they want that for level 1 though. But obviously something's failing when you get it to pass. Let me have a think. Let me pass you over to Andrew. He's been hammering away at the keyboard. He's literally, there's smoke coming out of his keyboard. He's typing so fast. He's on so many further levels. Switch over to Andrew in the studio.
I don't know, I've just broken stuff.
Perfect timing to switch over then. Watch Andrew fix something he's broken.
Well, I was trying to reverse the logic on what I'd written. So I wrote a for loop that was going through trying to process forwards, and I was trying to just undo it by going backwards. So I'm starting with cube rooting. I don't know. Cube root that, take away 1. And from there, n plus 1 divided by 2, yeah. Star, which is a power by. See if that's less, then we go up to the next one. We loop round. So once it becomes greater than m, obviously we're going to stop that, and then we're going to return that, or minus 1 if we don't have an answer. But what have I broken? Solution is not a file. Diagnostic code. I'm sure it's something simple I broke.
He's always breaking stuff.
Not the best way of reading an error.
Yeah, I know. That's part of the fun, right? Sometimes you get some cryptic errors, and it's good.
So not a module.
Okay.
Oh, is that because because cube root will return a float? Is it not happy? Do I need to parse? Might be that line that's upset. Let me try that.
I can't skip on the first one. We're going to do this. We're going to do this.
The next one will be equally as difficult.
Next one will be harder. But the crazy thing is, the sample test is passing. Let's have a look. What else can I do? I'm going to be strict about this. Let's make this. It just seems odd to be on level 1 to be so strict. But let's make it strict.
You can console log things, can you?
You can, yeah.
Oh, you can?
I'm sure you can. I remember someone saying you could.
Try and comment out these lines.
Let's have a look.
I want to see if that's actually working, and because cube root is CB root, right? I'm sure that's what it is.
You could just kind of do hat, the caret to number 3. This is embarrassing, but like I said, we're just mortals.
Not so much. Oh, it's not.
It's on your screen, right? Good, you're not showing my screen. This is kind of way embarrassing. We're going to get fired tomorrow. Can't even do a simple... This is junior, right? You know we selected super duper expert.
For the case, I'm not returning. So where's the console log stuff? I can't see any console log stuff coming through. Okay, let me try this.
Prepend it with like hashes or like something. If you can see my error, let me know. If you see Andrew's error, keep quiet. Okay, so I want to know if it's found and I can remove it. Right, okay.
I don't like this test. Who chose to do this? I'm going to go to the camera for a minute. Because I think Eddie has gone for the craziest test. Because who was it you heard CodeWars is a great thing from?
Well, it's really easy until you get to level down to level 4. 'Cause you start off at level 8 and you work your way down. We're on level 8.
We're on the easy stuff.
Kiddie stuff.
Yeah.
And we're stuck.
But isn't this mostly kind of a maths test? That's what I'm getting here. This is a maths test, and I have not done maths in.
You rate yourself as being really good at maths. So.
Yeah, if it's 1 + 1, sure.
No, you love doing complicated stuff. I swear you did the square root of something in your head the other day.
Well, yeah, maybe, but not calculating cubes and building up 3-dimensional objects.
But for the record, we're not
if I was
timing.
building computer games and stuff, I might have got better at maths.
For the record, we're not timing this, and you want to. Let's have 5 minutes per question. We've been on this for like 30 minutes.
That's why I'm tempted to skip and find another question. Maybe the best thing to do is skip until you find one you feel that you can answer, and then try and answer that, because we're going to run out of time on one question otherwise. And I thought I had an idea in my head as to how to reverse engineer the numbers I was doing, but it's not working out. I'm gonna call. We should skip until you find one that makes sense, because chances are that's what a lot of people do when they're doing this. Is they skip until they go, I think I can answer that.
No, we're gonna do it. We're gonna do it. Come on.
Really?
I've got an idea. I'll make it more complicated.
Start over again with the way I was thinking.
There's a reset at the bottom if you need it.
Yeah, actually, that's a good point. I might hit that button. Go on. What have I done wrong?
Okay, so you doing stuff? I'll leave yours alone. Okay, be on your screen. Oh no, we're not on anyone's screen.
Oh, we're on the main screen.
Go to my screen. Okay, so I'm
going to
rework my screen, my work now. So my thinking is I'm going to have the condition at the top stay the same. However, I'm going to have it so that we should have just played Mortal Kombat. No, so I want to remove the items when they get matched out of the array. So if there's any items at the left in the array at the end, then it's a failure. So my thinking is, so keep the condition at the top, and then we're going to not exists. I think we call this remaining. Can't spell remaining. It's going to be remaining numbers, and then when we go over each one, we can do. We can do splice. That's going to really test my knowledge. But I don't want to manipulate the original array because that doesn't sound good. So, what is the best way to do this? Let me think. If we add it to a new array when it gets matched, we could create an object with a key, or create an object with the number. And did it get matched? Oh, that sounds better, actually. You know what? Forget that. Let's make it so it's an object of value, which is a number. And then if it's matched, it'll be Boolean. So we want a high-res screen. So we'll call it matches, maybe. So when it goes round the array, you can do it like this, actually. If I put this into multiple lines, it's easier to read. So we go around A, we'll map it, and then what we'll do is, if A2 includes the squared item from A1, then we can add it to matches. So we'll just say push it on to the array. We want to push it on with value and that it matches, or we just only push the matches. Oh yeah, then if it doesn't include, then we'll push it on with a false. Okay, let's just make this a bit more verbose, but it will hopefully look a lot better. So let's do this. Like I said, if you know the answer, do jump in. Give me some tips. Not even the answer. If you know any pointers, let me know. We'll try some of your ideas out. So what we're going to do is we're going to say, I want to make this a bit smaller. So Let's spit this out. Right. Too many brackets here. So, ternary maybe. So if A2 includes that item, then what we'll do is we will push it on to, it's going to be an object. In the object, we said we're going to have value, which is the item. And then we're going to have matched will be true. Otherwise, I need to do a ternary in multiple lines so it's readable like that. And then if it's not matched, we'll push it on with a false. How does that work? Getting a bit more complicated, but let's see how it goes. And then we will return. It can't be this complicated for the first question. Like, seriously. I could have written an Angular app, doing some CRUD to Firebase, and deployed it with CI and CD in less time. But
crazy some of the things that tests go through, because none of this really is stuff that you would actually use in a job.
But that's why it highlights it.
But that's why we wanted to do this, to prove that these kinds of things don't make much sense to do.
Exactly.
And hopefully next week we're going to do something a little bit more interesting, that's actually building something that, and building it maybe in a more interesting way.
Well, we got some ideas.
We could do some more of the academia and remind ourselves how stupid we really are.
Oh no, I pressed back again. Oh, I was trying to switch screens. Don't go, don't lose it. Okay, I lost it. Because I didn't run. It obviously saves it when you run. For the record, just to see who's winning, I know we're both failing at the moment, epically. But if you run sample, does yours pass the samples at least?
No, I'm not passing the samples.
I'm passing the samples, so I'm clearly winning.
No, I got the first one of the samples to pass.
First one.
And there's 4 in the samples. The first one passed and then it failed. So I'm having a bit of a rethink now again, because I sort of lost my train of thinking from before. So I'm trying a slightly different way that hopefully is a bit more readable.
I just ran that again. My samples are passing. But the full suite is not, which sucks. And I don't know why. They need another test in the sample to know why it's kind of failing. I don't get why it's failing. I think we should give a time limit and then we skip to the next one. I'm liking the idea now.
Skip, yeah. You want us to keep going?
Okay. Come on, people watching. Give me some help. Give me some tips. Don't be shy. Let me switch back to the screen without trying to go back a page and just see if there's any more comments in. Okay, not just yet.
You need a piece of paper or something to scribble down notes on.
Let me see. I don't think to calculate which one, it's too complicated, I think. Could filter it out. Okay, no, I've got another. Plan 3. Plan C. I've got an idea. Okay. First one doesn't work, try the second one. Second doesn't work, try the third one. If third doesn't work, ask me in a minute, I'm not sure yet. So what I plan to do is exists. Okay, we're going to keep that the same. We're going to loop over every single one. And if it includes that, let's bump it out of number 2. So we could filter it and rewrite it. It just seems... Okay, this is not going to be elegant, but I'm hoping it will work. Let's have a look. So let's make a copy of A. Let's put this on multiple lines to begin with. So we've got a map, so we do need to go around each number. But what we do in that map, let's put it on multiple lines. So, and we need to let me think. If you're enjoying this stream, by the way, and you're finding it hilariously entertaining of how much we're struggling, then do subscribe and do give us a thumbs up.
I've got a feeling that when I registered on here, Eddie set up this account and said it's like this person's been coding for the last 200 years and knows everything. And is a maths genius or something, because this is... Yeah.
Let's time box it.
I bet if I was back doing A-level or something, I'd look at something like this and go, I know, there's a certain formula.
Are you trying to say we're
really
too old?
Basic formula probably that sits behind this. So for all those people that have just finished university or whatever and that know maths inside out, what is the formula to do with calculating a volume for n minus x minus what? All the way up, what's going up.
Let's give it 5 minutes and then we're going to skip to the next one, okay?
5 minutes, we've already given it 30 minutes.
minutes.
I'm calling it now, I think.
A2.
I don't feel I'm getting any closer apart from I'm now scribbling down notes in comments trying to think what's the reverse of what I need to do.
So do I want to add it to a list? Someone just replied on Twitter saying, thank you very much. I'm not ready for CodeWars just yet. It may be in a month. We're not ready for CodeWars yet. If you are watching...
I think we needed to be practicing
Josephine,
this for like a month.
We're not ready for CodeWars either yet. And it's what we're trying to prove, really, that these aren't practical questions. Well, they're more academic, right? It's not what you do in your day-to-day. So when you get these tests and interviews, just don't let it put you off. Keep going forward. You'll get an interview where they'll give you a real live practical test that you probably do really well at.
Yeah, I mean, it would have been easier to say you've got this challenge, write some tests that are going to prove what you write works. Because going forward is quite easy. For example, this one here, if I wanted to write a test for it, then I know that the output is going to be n.
Let's switch to your screen, and then I can try.
So I know that from here to write a test, all I'm going to have to do is write a simple thing that says, right, let's start with n equals 4, and I could then say, right, I just need something that's going to be n equals 4, so 4 to the power of 3 plus 4 to the power minus 1 to the power of 3, and I can keep writing that ad infinitum all the way down. And I can quite quickly say, right, so I know that, if I keep going, plus 4 minus 3 to the power of 3, plus 4 minus 4, which would be 1. So basically now it's 1 to the power of 3, which was basically plus 1. And something has not quite got happy there, so I've obviously missed a number somewhere. Let's put that all together. So 101 would be what I was looking for if it was a 4. Great. So now reverse engineer that into a script that could figure out from the answer of 101 that the value was n.
So we've had a comment. I want to pronounce your name wrong so badly.
I'd love to watch you doing a whiteboard. Doing whiteboard tests.
We haven't got a whiteboard in this room, otherwise... Oh, we have got a whiteboard over there. We're kind of not set up to do that. But whiteboard tests are always quite interesting. I think more and more places are doing them less and less, though. Have you found that? I mean...
yeah, it's hard to say. I think if you're pressing a junior role, maybe they would still. But even then...
Could you give us some examples of... When we interview people, we don't give whiteboard tests. We give... bench pressing, pulling weights, see how fast you can run, like 100 meters. No, I'm just joking. Yeah, what sort of whiteboard tests would you want to cover? More like architecture and how you would architect, I guess, the full stack, maybe with load balancers, databases, those sorts of things. I'm more than happy to do that. We've actually had a few people ask that, but the reason why we haven't done it is we haven't seen or done whiteboard tests in quite a few years. I think they're not so popular anymore. We could be wrong. It's just from our experience. Maybe in Lebanon, it is popular. I'm interested to know what sort of questions they get asked. I think we should skip to the next one. I'm kind of stuck. This is way too hard.
Yeah. Okay. Go on. I'm all for skipping and finding something that I can answer.
Okay. So skip.
Make me feel better if I find something I can answer.
I know exactly. Check coupon. Okay. I don't know what it is. Online store to give out coupons. Someone can try cheating the system by entering invalid codes or using expired coupons. Okay. It sounds very similar to the one I've just done, except instead of being squares, I've got coupons. But let's give it a go. Not at Google. Oh, I went to the wrong way. I thought Google stopped doing it a while ago, although we have actually had someone else, I won't mention their name, who were actually going to do whiteboard tests with actually in a couple of weeks, and she's keen to practice that with us. We're going to record it, but we're not going to live stream it. But we could potentially we couldn't live stream it because of their existing work. But they asked us to do a whiteboard. They're going to bring the questions with them so that we can answer the questions on the whiteboard. So if you have questions that Google are asking, then we could go through them on the whiteboard. If you let us know what the questions are, and hopefully we can answer and not be stuck like we are on CodeWars.
Well, I just went skip, and the next one looks to me infinitely easier. I'm going to have to show. Look, compared to if you were looking at my previous question about n plus whatever, the next question as I hit skip wants me to write an accumulator whereby it's going to give me A, B, C, D, and it looks like the output needs to be basically capitalized for whichever letter it was, so capital A. Then depending on which value it is, so first, second, third, fourth, put that in lowercase after that number of times. So for the first one, it's A once, then B twice, but B, big B, then little b, then C.
That looks easier.
It looks a hell of a lot easier than
and
the
yet it's the
one.
same level.
And yet it's on apparently the same level question. So yeah, seems like a little bit of a joke. How was your next question? Go on.
Well, I've just gone back a page again, but
go on then. We'll go to your screen. What's your next question?
So mine is the coupon code, and it seems very similar to the previous one. It's just labelled differently.
Do you want to skip that one as well? I'll let you skip a couple.
No, so I guess I'll have a quick read. Your online store likes to give out coupons for special occasions. Some customers try cheating the system by entering invalid code or using expired coupons. Your mission: write a function called checkCoupon, which verifies that a coupon code is valid and not expired. A coupon is no more valid on the after the date. Oh, dates. I hate dates. Month, date, year. Okay, that's fine. I think I can do this one. Why have I got numbers and then got dates? What's the difference? Write a function called checkCoupon. Okay. Oh, you get the code. Enter code. Correct code. Current date. Okay, so... Okay. That seems fairly straightforward-ish. The date stuff always figures me out. I'll be on Google for doing that. Awesome, I'd love to watch that. We're definitely going to record it, but we don't think we can live stream it because she doesn't want her colleagues to know that she's going for a job. So we'll record it and post it much later, but that might not, I guess, help yourself. It might not help you. Are you able to get the Google questions and we can just go through it ourselves? So it's not for any particular person and we can just go through it on a live stream. Again, if we can answer it, as you can see, we're failing miserably. Okay, right. I'm going to try this one. Are you going already?
Yeah, I've just started.
Uh-huh. Okay, let me try this one. It's the date thing on this one, but let me try. Okay, so to write a function, enter code. So you need to check the code, if the code matches and if it's expired, right? So I think it should be pretty straightforward. Entered code. If it's not equal to correct code, then just return false, right? That's the first check we need. Return false, right? If they don't match, we fail it. The next check, we can do it all under one condition, but I'll do it as a separate one. The next check would be current date and versus the expiry date. Oh, they're passing in the current date. It shouldn't be too bad. So we want to check that. Probably go new date, which is current date. If it's greater than new date, expiration date, then again, return false. And so if it passes through all that, we assume it's correct and return true. How does that look to you? What does everyone think? Shall I run the sample tests? Let's see. Dun, dun, dun. Green. Red. Type error. Let me check. String. Okay, yeah, we're checking the strings. Dates are strings as well. Returns a boolean. I've got a type error. Unable to compile TypeScript. Oh, I've messed up a bracket somewhere. Yeah, missing a bracket at the end here. You didn't spot that? I thought we were pair programming. Okay. Run sample test again. And it's green. We beat Andrew on the samples.
I don't know, I've just hit an issue that I can't scroll to hit the button to test.
Excuses. You should get a new computer.
I need to change resolution to something that I can use, or they need to fix their platform so that it doesn't. I know I can do control minus. There we go.
Finally finished one. I submitted it, and it's apparently I'm awesome. It's the easiest one on the platform, and I've done it.
Okay, I'm almost there. I've just now got to add the extra.
Okay, let's switch to Andrew's screen, and let's have a look at his.
Oh,
it's red. There's a red there. Look at his screen. It's red.
So I just wanted to check that I was getting the first character out for each one correctly, which I am.
Okay.
So then I need to actually build my string. So
I can't reach the buttons at the bottom. I can see the top of the blue and the green button.
Just trying to think, what's the best way of repeating a character over and over? Do I put it in a loop? I could put it in a loop. Yeah, why not? It's nice and simple. We don't have to do anything too elegant for this, do we?
Huh? Did I fail that? How satisfied are you? Next cut. I've passed. I'm going to move on. Do you want me to wait? I can wait if you need a bit of time.
All right. You carry on.
I don't mind. Decode the Morse code. Okay, this is getting a bit harder now.
Okay, so I can start with a loop that I was just going to say. So I've got the initial character. So I was starting with making an array. I was going to put everything into an array. Then at the end, I'm going to return the array joined up with the hyphen because they want to put hyphens between them all. So I figured put it into an array, join it with a hyphen, nice simple way, which is what you can see is coming in the output. Previously was each letter with a hyphen put between them. So then I'm just doing a loop. The first loop just says go over based on the length of the string for basically for each character. And then I grab the current character, so set character based on S and then I for the index of which one we're on. Then I'm going to create a value, and that value is going to start with an uppercase version of that character. And then after that, based on which entry we're in, so X equals I, so for the first one that would be 0, while it's greater than 0, so this one shouldn't execute for the first character, which is fine, because we don't want it to execute for the first character. If we were on character 1, then it should execute once, because it will go into the loop one time before it hits 0. Then I want to say val plus equals and then whatever the character is. And then I should be able to push val into there, run the sample test, and with any luck, fingers crossed I think, we're pretty close. ZPP, that looks good. GG, so what's the missing issue here? Interesting. Because one of the characters they pass in was an uppercase, so some of these are uppercase and some are lowercase. I need to actually take a lowercase version of this. So let me do that up the top here. So I'll lowercase that. And now this should be correct. There we go, all passed. And if I hit attempt, I have to hit attempt, right, to say I think I'm done.
Yeah.
And look at that, 101 tests passed, 0 failed. How much easier was that than the previous one? I can't believe it's gone from that previous one to something like this. That's just ridiculous. Okay, I'll submit that. I'm sure I could have tidied it up and make it more elegant, but that would be a job for another day. Oh, look, I completed my first one. How fantastic is that? Okay, cool. So
I was just replying to Josephine's tweet.
Some evidence that we can actually write a bit of code that works.
A bit of code. I mean, how bad was that?
A little bit of kudos, I'm sure.
Well, I don't know about
nevertheless, that previous one, blimey, that was a maths question, not a coding question.
So, shall I switch to my screen and do mine? Are you ready for your next one?
Go on, where do I go next? Next kata. Okay, go on. Yeah, you go, Carl.
Okay, let me jump in. I haven't started this one. I haven't looked at it yet. Let's have a look. In this, I'll switch on my screen. In this kata, you'll have to write a simple, my ass, simple Morse code decoder. Morse code is now superseded by voice and digital. I don't need all that background. Morse code encodes every character as its sequence in dots and dashes. For example, A is coded as dot dash. Q is coded as dash dash dot dash. And digit 1 is dot dash 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 dash. The Morse code is case insensitive. Traditionally, capital letters are used. When the message is written in Morse code, a single... You can see my screen, right? Cool. Single space is used to separate character code, and 3 spaces are used to separate words. For example, the message "Hey Jude" in the Morse code is that. So I'm guessing that will be H, E, Y, and then the next word, Jude. Okay. Extra spaces before or after the code have no meaning and should be ignored. Sounds like they're going to have a cheeky test in there for that. So, in addition to letters, digits, and some punctuation, there are some special service codes. The most notorious of those is the International Distress Signal, SOS. It was first issued by the Titanic. Didn't help them, did it, unfortunately? I saw the movie. There was space on the raft, on the door for both of them, okay? Just for the record. These codes are treated as single special characters and usually transmitted as separate words. Your task is to implement... This has got more writing than it's going to have code, I think. Your task is to implement a function that would take the Morse code as input and return a decoded human readable string. For example, Hey Jude. Note, for coding purposes, you have to use ASCII characters, dots and dashes, not Unicode. The Morse code table is preloaded in dictionary for you. Feel free to use. Oh, okay, that makes it easier. JavaScript. See, Java. Coffee. Oh, there we go. JavaScript. Morse code. And then, okay, let's give this a go. Let's do it. Watch me fail again. Let me get comfortable. Right. So the test, as you can see at the bottom here, says... Oh, your own test. Okay, you can write your own test, which is cool. Right, so you got Hey Jude. And so we've got the Morse code string coming in and it returns a string.
Well,
So
if I show my question whilst you're talking or thinking.
Yeah, do it.
Okay, so the next question I was offered. And I assume I'm just taking the next one. I can't keep skipping.
Yeah, you got to take the next one.
Okay. Okay, so the next one, I don't think it's too bad. It's another letters one. So the last letters one went okay. This one says, find the missing letter. Okay, so we're going to get a consecutive list of letters. I assume, based on the example here, it's always going to be 5, but maybe when we see the test in a moment, it won't be the case. It says the array will always be at least 2. So it's always going to be at least 2 characters. So it could be the middle one that's missing, I guess. I assume that's the case. So I could have, in the examples here, I might just have A and C, and the missing one would be B. We'll have a look, see what the examples are again. And also, it's only going to be one case. So I always have to check which case it's going to be. Is it lowercase or uppercase? And then return the missing character, lowercase or uppercase. So that's an interesting question. Let's have a look. Do I hit train? Do I to go to that one?
Yeah.
Yeah, cool. That's right. You see, I've never used this before, so I suppose that's good to prove. Right, okay, so here it's given me the 2, which is the exact 2 that were there before. Interesting. A, B, C, D, E, F, and O, P, Q, R. I assume you can add more into the sample test if you wanted to.
Yeah, you can.
So, because I know when I read this, it was suggesting that there could always be at least 2. So it might be that I need to test this with some less characters. But in theory, I'm going to have to just find the first character. I didn't say Siri, I said theory. Thanks, Siri. So in theory, I need to find the first character, A or O, figure out if that's an uppercase or a lowercase character, and then iterate through the array, figure out which one's the first one that's missing. Once I find the first one that's missing, I can show that. So I'll have a crack on with that. Feel free if you want to say anything else, as I have a little think about how I write this. I'm sure you're thinking as well.
I'm thinking as well, but I can switch to mine and I can show people me failing. Don't forget, if you're on the live stream, just say hello in the chat. Let us know what you do. Are you a student? Are you working in tech? What tech do you use? I know we've got people from Java and JavaScript and TypeScript, but just, say hey in the chat. Don't be shy. We're all mortals here and all friends. And as you can see, us failing massively. So I'll switch to my screen. Hopefully you can see my screen. So the idea here is, in the challenge that I've got, is we're going to get a Morse code sentence in. And as we know, words are separated by 3 spaces and letters are separated by 1, as we can see here. So this example, there's 1 space here. So therefore, this whole lot is 3 characters, which is the hey, and then you've got 3 spaces here, which separates the word hey Jude. So I think my thinking is we get the string that comes in. Oops, we get the string that comes in, and we split it on 3 spaces. 1, 2, 3. And then once we split it on 3 spaces, that will be the words. So therefore we could loop over the words and then do each character. So my next thinking is if we then split on the character, it will be a string also. So now we've got a character. So we're splitting on the 3 spaces, then we loop over each one of those words, and then we split on the character. And then they gave us this bit of code which says this is what gives us the Morse code, so we don't have to type out all the Morse code. So they said that this will be the character. What we want to do. Character. This works first time. I'll be so happy. But, as we all know from coding experience, it doesn't. And then it will return, that will be an array. If we're going to map it, it will be an array. And then it wants it as a string, so we can, let me think, could do a join, but do I need to do a join twice because you're going to have 2 arrays. So if I finish that map off, because it will be, doing it on one line, I'm trying to be smart here, but I think I want to epically fail. But, that's okay, part of the fun, right? Open, close bracket, open, close, open, close. Well, I think I need one more bracket on the end. So what we're going to do in this map, we're going to join. I think we join it on, the first one's going to be characters, right? So we join it on no spaces. And then on the last one, which will be back out here, we join it with a space, because that will be the word. And then I can probably just return that. Let's just see if that works. I don't know. Are you feeling confident? I'm not feeling confident. Andrew, what do you think?
I don't know what's your question.
That was me joking because I know you haven't looked. I'm just going to hit samples. Let's go. It's probably not even going to compile. Didn't even compile.
I was going to say, what's Morse code there? I don't know what. You've got your capitalized Morse code here.
That they give us that just for all the Morse code. So you pass in the character and it will give you back the translation of it.
Oh, do they? How do you know that?
Well, it said it in the instructions.
Oh, okay.
But I only read part of it, so there might have been a caveat.
I was going to say it might be that it was just trying to highlight you need to do something.
I'm pretty sure it said that. What do you think?
It would be quite helpful, I suppose, to actually give you something.
Yeah. Pretty sure it said, Morse code is a string. That's fine. So what was the error that I got output? Let's have a look. Unable to compile TypeScript. Expression expected. I must have missed some brackets. Morse code split. This gives you an array of a word. Then you can map over each word. And on each word, map on each word. Oh, I missed out. I think I missed out a split again. Right. Doing it on one line. I'm trying to look clever here, but I think I'm looking kind of stupid.
Well, at least you're making use of some TypeScript stuff in there. The last question, I didn't actually use any TypeScript, which is interesting.
Yeah, they're not very strict on the types. I think they should be a bit stricter as well. But I've just realised I'm trying to map over a string, which might work, but shouldn't really. So, I've done a typo. This hasn't got the word in there, so it'll be word. So it'll be word dot split. Aha, okay, let me move this to the other line, right? Word dot split. Okay, this is going to work now. So we want to split on a single space, and then we put the map further in. Right. Okay, now we're cooking on gas. And then the join we can put in there if you want a bit further in, if it's easier to read. And then this map ends with that map. Yeah, it seems to kind of work. This is going to work. Oh my god, if this works, I'm so happy. Green. It worked! I should be surprised. It worked. Of course it worked. I was expecting that all the way along. So any questions about how I've done that, do ask in the chat and I'll try to explain. But basically, I've taken the string coming in. Before I explain, let me run the full test of suites because it might fail. Attempt. Come on, the stress. Oh, I've got a failure.
Oh, well. What does that mean? Can you try again?
Yeah, you can try again. But the odd thing was, it worked for some of the samples, but it says basic, more complex, failed, got space E, expect. I got a space at the beginning, so it did say to ignore the spaces at the beginning, at the end, and I'd done nothing about that. So to ignore the spaces at the beginning, we could. Is it just trim, right? So we could just go trim. I don't know if we need to trim anywhere else, but let me just trim at the end. And then let's just run that again. If that works, I'll explain what I've done. You can let me know what you think. Yes, that passed. It was just a trim. I'm liking CodeWars now. So what I did, I took the string that let me put this on multiple lines. So I took the string, Morse code, I split it on 3 spaces, which they said separates the words. And from that, I'll get an array. And then on the array, I map over it. And each time I map over it, it will be the word, which will be a string. And then that word, I split on a single space, which will be the character. And then on each character, so I map over to give me each character, and then I translate the character from Morse code into text using Morse code constant that they gave us. And then I join all the characters up without a space because a word in English doesn't have a space in it. And then I also then join the words up with a space and then trim any white space at the beginning or end. And it passed. That's awesome. So I did attempt, it's passed. How do I go to the next one? Attempt. I'll submit final. Do it. I'm gone to level 6. What level are you now? Oh no, the question's level 6. I'm still on level 8.
Oh, is that what the 6KYU is?
It's getting more difficult. Right, let's hit the Andrew's screen while I check out the next question.
Well, I suppose if you want a summary of what I've done so far, I've largely got the answer. I just wanted to see if I could make it a little bit more TypeScript rather than JavaScript in how it read. But essentially, I'm using JavaScript's char CodeAt to get what the current code is. So I can see down here, A, B, C, D, E, F, 97, 98, 99, 100. So I know what the letters all are. I know the gap is effectively going to be between 100 and 101 because it's a 2-step jump. So I could easily say, okay, find where there's more than 1-step jump, and that's the missing character. So in which case it would be 101, and then I could do the reverse and do 2 char code to get the answer. So that's all I'm basically doing is trying to see, can I just convert that to a single line effectively? So I'm saying if the previous was 0, so I'm starting a reduce on 0. I'm not sure reduce is really the way to go here because reduce is going to just keep on going down and down. So I was trying to think, is a map better? But a map doesn't really work either because that's going to just give me a new array. Filter, well, again, filter doesn't know which one's missing. So maybe there's not a simple array function that can do this unless there's one that I've not really used very often to find a gap.
What you want to do, find a difference between 2. You've got compare. Not the compare the market.
Not really. I mean, I could map them all out to their characters. Maybe that's a way of starting, is I could just literally say, yeah, that might work. Okay, let's try this. So if I go array map and I take each one, so character, and I just return from that the character char code at 0. And now I'm going to have effectively, I could just console log that out. Let's get rid of this lot. Console log char array, I'll call it. So that'll give me a list now of all of them. If I just run that, and so I can see the console log. Oh, no, it doesn't like something. What if I miss?
Without having a proper IDE, kind of highlighting the brackets and all those things.
Because it's looking for a return value. So I'll just return, like I was doing a minute ago, just return an A. But yes, an IDE would help a lot with typing and all the rest of it because I had to figure out what char code that was. I knew it existed. So you can see I've got another tab here, me going, what is it? Oh, char code at. Yeah, of course it is.
But it's good. It shows that you don't have to remember everything. I think it's important, for people to know that you don't have to remember everything. Why is that not playing? Did the stream stop? You don't have to remember everything.
Yeah. So now that I've got effectively everything as numbers are good because it eliminates the need for capitals and lower cases. I've got to find where the gap is. What's the best way of iterating through that list to find the gap? Because I want the next value and I want the previous one. So for loop isn't going to do it. Reduce would give you the previous and the next one. But can you break out of a reduce? I've never tried.
I've never tried, actually.
Let's have a quick look. So it's not really TypeScript, it's just JavaScript, really.
Well, yeah, 6 stuff.
Break out of reduce. Let's see what Stack Overflow says. Yeah, you'll get a return. Yeah, I don't like any of that. That's a little bit messy. Although this looks very similar to the code I'm writing. With the list of numbers.
It's got 66 upvotes on
yeah, that's doing something completely different though. Yeah, so I was hoping to try and find something a little bit more elegant, but maybe I just loop through them and just say which one is less than the previous one. So I could hold the current one, so I could just say let x. We can just hold the current one, and then we can do a loop, and we could just say for. In fact, we don't even have to do for. We can do char array dot for each, and then we put code. Let me think. Best way of getting that back. I essentially want to store, so I want to get the found value. So y is going to be the found value. We can say if x equals undefined, so that's what it's going to start as. Then x equals the code. Else we can have a look and see is the next code one or more bigger. So does else, I'll put an if in there. Perhaps else if can you do that? Can you do x plus plus?
The increment.
Code minus 1. I'm just trying to think in an if statement. I want to do basically code minus 1 equals x.
Hop over here.
So code minus 1 equals x, and I can say x equals
X marks the spot.
next one, because we're saying basically that is the next one in the series. So the current code, the next one we're looping over, minus 1 equals x, which is the previous code. Then that's fine. So we just say, okay, let's update x. Else we've found a gap. So y equals code. Or does it? Because as we're looping over them, we're getting the index value. So we need to put an index in here.
Not your everyday challenge as a coder, right?
Well, actually, no, because it's not. It's not going to be quite like that. We can still do that. So we're saying if minus 1 equals the answer, then that's fine. Otherwise, we've skipped 2 forward. So effectively, it's just the code minus 1. So I probably could have done something else in there. And then, yeah, essentially at the end of that, we should have hopefully found a y. So I should then be able to return. And it's string dot, is it char to code? Or code to char, probably. Code to char.
Know.
For y.
I want to Google the code to char, right? I'd never use those characters, really.
Yeah, I'll double check. Let's have a look. JavaScript.
So you want your IDE to autocomplete for you?
Yeah. From char code. Okay.
Okay.
All right, I was a million miles off. From
That's
char
close.
It's one of those, I've used it a long time ago, and I knew there's a char to code thing, but yeah. Okay, let's see what happens with the samples.
Come on. Typo error. It's going to be typo.
I've probably made a small code somewhere that implicitly has type any. Okay.
Type any. I'm glad it raised that. That's really good.
So I need to raise these as numbers.
Yes, TypeScript for the win. It's just like Java for the Java people watching. It's like the cheap version of Java.
Oh, variable y is used before being assigned.
Uh-oh. Which one's being used before it's assigned?
I assume it's talking about it down here. So maybe
because for each is asynchronous, right? So it won't wait for it.
Oh, you're right. Yeah, that's the nuisance of for each.
Are you
check?
Are you
Because
creating
this is
one?
synchronous code, so it should be okay. It's only when there's something inside here is asynchronous.
Oh, really?
Ah, okay. Expected R to equal P. O, P, Q. Yeah.
30 years between us, and we're struggling on level 6 CodeWars challenge.
Well, this is interesting because it's saying R to equal P, so... Did he get the previous one? I can't see. You can't see what the previous result was. I assume it must have got E okay.
While you're figuring it out, I'm just going to give people, anyone who's joined, I see the numbers have just gone up again, who's joined, just let them know what we're doing. We're doing CodeWars. We were competing, but, I finished this hours ago. And
you can carry on with the next question.
The next one's really hard. And we just want to show you that there are no ninjas, no rock stars. We are mortals, and we are struggling, even with 30 years between us. Because this is not what we do on our day-to-day jobs. We write full-stack code. We do databases, security, performance, accessibility, all that great stuff.
Code challenges like
but we don't do code challenges. This is why they're a bit silly when it comes to interview questions, because...
Never, ever would you do stuff like this.
Because if someone might do really well on this, but they can't code for shit on a real project, or vice versa, they might do really badly on this and they might get discarded, well, actually they're a really good kind of coder on a real project. This is why we don't give these sorts of challenges. We prefer to give a real, in our agile sprint, we prefer to give a real story for them to do, even if it's only small. But then they can, we can see them write some automated tests, see them write some actual code as part of the project. I think that gives a better test and makes them feel more welcome and part of the team. And we'll pair them with them when they do it. We don't just throw them in a kind of a dark room in the basement in dungeons and say, you're not coming out until you complete this story. It's more just how would you go about this, and we can help them along, just to see how they think about these things. This is something we're keen to highlight.
I'm just swapping this from the asynchronous for each to a synchronous for sure, just in case it was picking up the previous answer somewhere.
Right, okay.
Which I can't see why it would do, but... So now I'm just starting it from, X is used before being assigned.
Spell your name wrong, put it as 0 as well, on line 5. Just make it...
Nothing,
that's what we did the other one though.
So I've got an X equals undefined then. If it's undefined, then I want to take the first... code, but maybe I could do that. Oh, actually, I could do that to start. Why didn't I think of that before? So I could literally say char array 0 is going to be the first character, because we know the first character is safe.
That's exactly what I just said. Kind of. That's exactly what I said. Sort of. I didn't really mention those words, but yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
0 is the same as
say
char.
X and Y are both going to be the first character. If I just want to set Y to have something.
Okay.
Does it let you do that? It doesn't seem to like it. It's not highlighting it correctly, but maybe it just doesn't understand it. Do I still loop over them? Is there a different way I can then do it? If I try to consider more elegant ways of writing this? Because essentially we want to say if we loop through... I'm still keen to get a reducer now. I'm sure you could do it with a reducer.
You love your reducers, don't you?
It's only because it's weird. It's not. You're not actually building something out of all the values. You want it to just find the empty value. Filter. You'd have to catch each one. No. Find. No, it doesn't really work. Okay,
Let's add Mongo and then add lots of other stuff and just throw tech at it. CV-driven development. That's a conversation for another time.
Okay, so we can just start by saying if we've got the same value to start with, then we can pretty much just skip over. I could just put a return in there because we know we're starting with the first value. So if X equals the code, we skip over it. If the code minus 1 equals X, then we move X along. Otherwise, Y must equal the whatever the code was, but we need it with the minus 1 in there. Okay, let's give that a try. See if he gets upset by that line. Might do. Yeah, I think he wants wants that to be 2 lines.
Okay, we'll finish this and then we'll probably call it a day. It's been too embarrassing. I cannot handle any more embarrassment.
No, I think we need to do something a little bit more real for the next one of these so-called challenges between us.
So ideas welcome. Ideas welcome. I thought of having a really simple, like, you know how they make Lego cars and they put them on the track and they try and get them to race around objects and you have to code it, not like control it. I thought we could have some sort of, like, I don't know, top-down view game of a maze. We have 2 characters and we put our code in like a code block and they have to maybe race around and collect things, or I don't know, but coded.
Something a bit more fun than doing a test.
Yes, and then maybe people could submit their one and we can run it live and see who does it in the fastest time or something like that, or catch the most points. So ideas massively welcome. Do let us know how we could have a bit of a competition with some code that we could do every week. We have built a game before on live stream. We used to live stream on Twitch, and that was really popular. Went really popular. We built on that every week. We built on the game. We really enjoyed it. However, it was more Andrew coding and me talking. It turned into kind of the Eddie show. So it'd be good if we were both coding and working together or working against each other, something like that. I think we'll think of some ideas. Let us know. Ideas are welcome. You fixed it yet?
Not quite, no.
Is level 6. I think that's like super duper.
It shouldn't be. So code. Just wondering, can I do it slightly differently? Code minus. So we go 1 down from the code. And then we should better say if x is greater than or equal to the code. But we don't want that. In fact, we can probably go to here, so then say if code x.
I might just Google some whiteboard challenges.
Code is still greater than x.
Let me switch back over here.
Then y equals code.
Because I'm not being helpful at all. Whiteboard challenges. Whiteboard coding challenges. It's about whiteboard wrong. Not going to start. How to beat the 5 common JavaScript interview challenges. February 2019. Not too old. I love this quote. I'd rather hire a smart person and teach them X than hire someone who knows everything about X but lacks creativity, logic, and reasoning. So that's really important. The whiteboard challenges, they're on my screen, but you should watch what Andrew's doing. So I'll just fill in the time while we're waiting. Are stuff like very similar to CodeWars, funny enough, with whiteboard challenges. It says number 1 is palindrome. Is that the word is the same?
Same forwards and backwards.
Yeah, I didn't know that. That's what it's called. So like Hannah or Anna or race car, they're the same forward and backwards. So that's apparently a whiteboard exercise. That would be something that I bet you they have on CodeWars. Reasoning challenge. Solution. Fizzbuzz is another famous one.
Oh, look what I made a mistake of. I probably had this written correctly about 20 times, but I'd put a 0 in there because I copied it from the line above, but I needed to put I in there. How silly was that? So that's looking much better.
Is it passed?
It won't pass yet because I changed the code to try something slightly different, but yeah, that's looking better now.
Find the vowels. That's pretty straightforward. Fibonacci is always a famous one. Conclusion. We're all fired.
That's interesting. I still got the RP thing, which I had earlier.
Oh, okay. So you were right before, and you're still... Well, you were wrong before, and you're still wrong now with the same error. That's a really hard test. I think we call it a failure. I'm joking. We don't. We're going to make this work.
I don't think it necessarily is hard. The issue seems to be... probably here, but...
Been a long day.
Console log.
Isn't what most people do just remove the test? If the test is failing, remove the test.
Delete the test, right? Yeah,
delete the test and it'll work.
Thing to do.
Exactly.
Because the test can't be right.
Exactly. Comment them out. It's passed. Never do that. No matter what. Trust me, it might save you 5 minutes today, but it'll cost you 5 hours tomorrow, and so on.
Okay, so what I've got going on now, if I just...
Are you speaking to the mic?
Again, I can probably reduce this code down now that I've realised I made a mistake, but starting out with mapping all the characters, so I get a list of character codes. I probably should have called that code array rather than character array, because it's a bit confusing when it says character array. Then we go assign two values, but start them both at the beginning. Again, this is where I could probably tie this up, because I probably don't actually need that second one. Anyway, we do a loop through, and then we find... So we start out by saying get the code for the current entry, and then we're going to do a check against it, which is going to say take one away from it. And then if the check is still bigger than the previous value of x, then we found the value, so y equals check, and we could effectively stop looping. I'll probably put a break or something in. Otherwise, we assign x to the code value, and the code was the next item in the list. And then I'm just putting a console log out because I'm a little bit confused why we're getting 79 coming through each time when the numbers are going up. So each time we're going up by 1. So we're going O to R effectively. So it should be saying 79, 81. Maybe I should just console log out the actual code on each loop. That might be more useful, just to check that it is actually incrementing correctly. Yeah, so 79 to 81, that's correct. It's skipped 1.
Okay.
Which is the same thing that happened on the previous one, it skipped 1. So is it a case of what this is doing is it's getting to the end of the array, and the previous one is adding on? Because y that it's finding... Yeah, it keeps on incrementing, so something's not quite right with this line of code. It shouldn't keep incrementing. Of course it will keep incrementing because we set the one down, so we do need to effectively exit this. Can we break out?
You can put return. If break doesn't work.
Yeah.
Green.
Yeah, so the issue was that it was kept on overriding because, of course, as you've assigned one in now, as it keeps on running more in the loop, the next one is now always going to have a gap of 2 in there. Okay, so I suppose I could just go with that, shall we?
Okay, submit it.
Submit it. Because I'm pretty sure now that will pass for the test that it's going to come up with.
Do it.
Millions of tests it's going to run.
Green. Submit it as well, so you don't have to do it again.
Well, I would like to tidy it up because that can definitely be tidied up now that I know what the answer is. But that's the problem with these things, right? You get an answer, and then you can refactor it and refactor it and refactor it to improve on it.
That's why tablet test is really good. Absolutely. Cool. Okay. Well,
in fact, look, that's not a million miles off what I just wrote. There's an example.
Oh, it gives you an example. Okay, nice.
So you can see what other people did. It's just that I was using CodeChart, so they're largely the same thing. They just put their loop in a slightly different place because I mapped mine out first, whereas each time they're tricking it there. So very similar answer, just from a different way of writing it. This one, they looked for the upper cases. I did consider that first, to be honest, to do something like that, to see does it match an uppercase one, in which case we're looking for uppercase characters. But then they've used CodeAt as well, so yeah, seems interesting. I like how this one actually looked to see did they have anything missing or not, because I suppose there is the possibility of nothing found. So good call there to say nothing was missing. But that wasn't in one of the tests. There was no test there that said nothing's missing. So going to load more as well, and similar sorts of things to what I was doing.
I think it's really good to also highlight that everyone codes things differently. So, that's not so good to actually write that out. It's not needed.
Yeah. Well, again, that's kind of thinking about using the code charret thing. But that would be an alternative if you didn't have it, I suppose, is to loop through all of that and figure it out. But actually, I mean, you look at the lines of code there; it's quite short.
It is quite short. It is, but I just don't like having stuff like that in the code unless you absolutely have to. But I think it shows that things can be done 30 different ways, and there's no right or wrong answer, as it were. So when we do interviews, we're not expecting a specific answer. It's interesting to see how people think about it. So do share how you're thinking about something, even if you're being successful or if you think you're being unsuccessful. Do share that.
Like how someone said here, it's a bad but short solution. They actually did use the reduce in there. I'm sure you can get a reduce in. But they've done it based on this. But
reduce with how many nested ternaries? 2.
That is quite a lot of ternaries going.
That is an ugly ass line. Yeah. And that's someone trying to be smart, but not great. But they could have done multiple lines at least to make it easier to read.
Yeah.
Does yours feature on that page?
I hope not, because it's not the sort of answer I'd really get to. If I spend a bit more time, I'd certainly have cleaned it up and probably had things a bit more like this going on. Well, again, that's probably got a bit too many way of ternaries on it. But I'm sure you could do it in one line.
Nested ternaries are not
It's
good.
nice to have something that you can read through, though, that explains it. I like how this one, they left their console logs in when they submitted it.
Fair enough.
Not really a problem, but obviously if that was being used in real code...
in production code, you wouldn't want that. Linters usually pick them up.
I'm sure if I keep scrolling down to the thousands of people that have answered it, you'll find mine somewhere. Anyway.
Let's call it a day.
How good was that?
Yes, let us know what you thought.
There has to be a winner.
So what's the forfeit for Andrew? Well, think of a forfeit. Next stream, we'll let Andrew know.
Okay, so we're going to start the next stream with a forfeit.
Start the next stream with the forfeit. We'll have a think and see. So just let me know your ideas in the chat, or when we end the stream shortly in the comments below. Let us know what you think Andrew should do for losing, and let us know what we think. What else we could do? CodeWars kind of wasn't as realistic as we thought.
No, we were after something a bit more real to run, and we'd heard so many good things about CodeWars. This could be quite good, but I think for a learning and putting things you've been learning academically to the test, maybe. But I wouldn't go recommending something like this to someone that's starting out, certainly, because it's not for beginners, really. It's for people that know their stuff and want to prove themselves, I guess.
Yeah, I suppose. But even us, look, we struggled, right? It's not realistic. It's good fun, though. If you have got time and you want to play with stuff, do have a go. It won't hurt. But have your side projects where you're actually building real projects, or more realistic projects where you're doing CRUD, you're trying to do a bit of security, performance, you're thinking about your models, you're thinking about, there's so many things. This is just to get the syntax going and some number crunching. But yes, definitely worth doing, but by itself is not enough.
Yeah, the thing I found interesting with this as well is it's supposed to be in a TypeScript test, right? To test your TypeScript knowledge. Really, they were just JavaScript questions. That's all the answers came. There was nothing clever from a TypeScript perspective going on to answer them. So.
We can always add some. We come up with our own. So I think we should call it a night. It's almost 9 o'clock UK time, way past our bedtime. So yes, let us know what you think. Give us a thumbs up, subscribe.
Yeah, I think next time we will look to do something a little bit more realistic than this.
Yes.
We'll come up with a realistic challenge. But we will continue doing this, so hopefully the idea is good. Apologies as we're testing this out, but this perhaps wasn't the best competition as such to run. But we will be running more, and we will find a more interesting, exciting way of doing things.
Sounds good. CodeMortals out.
CodeMortals out. Good night.